Elias took a slow breath and felt the tension he had been carrying loosen in his chest. Outside the tall, arched window, clouds drifted past the glass like slow-moving mountains. Rain traced quiet paths down the window panes, blurring the distant shapes of misty peaks beyond. It felt as though the library did not simply sit in the clouds, but existed among them, suspended in a place where weather and time moved gently together. He stepped further inside, his boots sinking slightly into the thick, woven rug that covered the wooden floor. The rug was patterned in muted greens and browns, echoing the forest tones that crept in through potted plants placed thoughtfully throughout the room. Ferns and trailing vines softened the edges of bookshelves and window frames, as if nature itself had been invited to stay. A leather sofa sat beneath the window, its cushions deep and inviting. Across from it stood two matching armchairs, angled toward the fireplace as though they had been waiting for someone to sit down and stay a while. A low wooden table rested between them, holding a single candle and a closed book, its cover marked with faint symbols Elias did not recognize. He approached the table and ran his fingers gently over the book's surface. It felt warm, as if it had been resting there for a long time, absorbing the quiet comfort of the room. Elias had not planned to come here. He had been wandering for days through fog-covered paths and half-remembered trails, following a feeling rather than a destination. Every step he had taken seemed to lead him away from noise, away from urgency, and towards something calmer. When he had finally seen the glow of lantern light through the clouds, he had followed it without hesitation. Now, standing in the cozy cloud library, he understood why. This was a place meant for those who needed rest. He lifted the book from the table and opened it carefully. The pages were filled with flowing handwriting, the ink slightly faded but still clear. The words did not rush him. They seemed to wait patiently, as though they knew he would read them when he was ready. As Elias read, he realized something strange. The story in the book was not unfamiliar. It spoke of long journeys, quiet regrets, and moments missed because life had moved too fast. It spoke of someone who had always been searching for something just beyond reach. It spoke of him. Elias closed the book slowly and looked around the room again, suddenly aware that the library felt alive in a subtle, comforting way. The fire shifted as though responding to his movement, and the candle flame leaned gently toward him before settling again. A soft creak echoed from somewhere among the shelves. He turned to see an elderly librarian emerge from behind one of the towering bookcases. She moved slowly but confidently, her long cardigan trailing slightly behind her as she walked. Her silver hair was tied neatly at the back of her head, and her eyes held the calm depth of someone who had listened more than she had spoken. "You found the right book," she said kindly. Elias nodded, unsure what else to say. "The library tends to do that," she continued, smiling. "It gives people the stories they need, not always the ones they expect." She gestured toward the chairs by the fire. "You're welcome to stay as long as you like." Elias settled into one of the armchairs, the leather creaking softly beneath him. The warmth of the fire wrapped around him, and he felt the weight of his journey finally begin to lift. The librarian returned to her quiet work, moving among the shelves with practiced ease. Time passed differently in the cozy cloud library. Elias read, rested, and listened to the rain. Sometimes he would glance out the window and watch clouds drift past, their shapes constantly changing. Other times, he would simply sit and listen to the fire, letting his thoughts slow to match its steady rhythm. At some point, he realized he no longer felt the urge to hurry. The worries that had followed him for so long seemed distant here, softened by the warmth and quiet. When he finally stood to leave, the librarian was waiting near the door. "You can return," she said gently, as if answering a question he had not yet asked. "The library doesn't disappear. It just waits." Elias thanked her and stepped back into the clouds. As the door closed behind him, the cozy cloud library settled into silence once more, its fire glowing steadily, its books waiting patiently for the next soul who needed a place to rest. And somewhere beyond the mist, the clouds continued to drift, carrying stories with them, slow and gentle, just as they always had.